One of the most well-known American cases involves a boy named James. It's either Leininger or Leininger.
Okay.
When James was a toddler, he began having violent, recurring nightmares. These weren't abstract childhood fears. He screamed about his plane crashing, about being trapped, about fire.
Oh my gosh, I have chills already.
Yeah, he talked about aircraft carriers, engine failure, and being shot down. He's a toddler. He used terminology no toddler should reasonably know. At first, his parents assumed he absorbed something from television or books, but the nightmares persisted and the details kept coming. Names, locations, and references to a very specific war.
Stop.
Eventually, investigators connected James's statements to a World War II fighter pilot who died when his plane was shot down.
Stop it.
Welcome to the You Two Scare Me podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Felice.
And I'm Andy, and we are coming to you from Key West, Florida.
All right. If this is your first time tuning in, hey there. We're just two spooky gals who love to hear and tell stories about the paranormal, the spiritual, the weird, and the unexplained.
But don't worry, we respect the forces that make things go bump in the night, and we know to keep a safe distance.
That's right. We are fully aware that we don't know anything or really understand what's happening with any of this stuff.
Not a thing.
I feel like every day we learn more and more about what we don't know.
Absolutely.
I think that's healthy, though, when you're talking about unexplained things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think it's a good idea to be like, well, this is what I think is happening.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's good to keep an open mind.
Yeah. I was just teaching the kids at school about astronomy and Copernicus. And, you know, at that time, everybody believed everything revolved around the earth. And he's like, no, guys, you know, we're revolving around the sun. And they thought he was crazy for 500 years.
Man,
you know,
it's a long time to have that reputation.
So, you know, we'll just be crazy right now. And then we'll be like,
Told ya.
But we do have a deep respect for the unknown and unseen forces at work around us. We also make sure to laugh to keep it light as we work our way through all of these unexplainable things. We hope to bring you stories that make you question and give you a chill.
A quick warning before we begin. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Our tales are drawn from folklore, history, and reported experiences, but we don't claim them as fact. Some stories may include sensitive topics, so listener discretion is advised.
Dive into the shadows with us as we bring you haunting tales in this episode of the You Two Scare Me podcast.
Shall we dive in? There's a particular kind of story that makes people lean in when you tell it. Not the big, dramatic, lightning strike stories, but the quiet ones. The ones that don't announce themselves as paranormal at first. The stories that really hold people tend to be quieter than that. They start small. They start with a child saying something strange, something oddly specific, something that makes the adults nearby laugh at first until they realize the child isn't joking.
At first.
Those stories have a weight to them, a different gravity. And tonight, that's what we're talking about. This episode is about past lives, but not in the way the topic is usually presented. Not in the I was royalty sense, and not through hypnotic regression sessions where memories are guided, shaped, or suggested. We're talking about a very specific category of cases, ones that have been documented, investigated, and debated by doctors, psychiatrists, and researchers who are not trying to prove reincarnation.
Ooh.
Many of them didn't even like the conclusions their work seemed to point toward.
Uh-oh.
They're like, oh man. Before we go any further, this needs to be said clearly. This episode is not claiming that science has proven reincarnation. That's not where we're going here. It hasn't. What science has done, yet. What science has done quietly and often uncomfortably is collect a body of cases that refuse to disappear. Cases that don't collapse neatly under scrutiny. Cases that sit in an uneasy space between psychology, neurology, culture, and something we don't yet have a good framework for. These stories are inconsistent, they're imperfect, they're deeply human. And by the end of this episode, you might still be skeptical. That's okay. You might still believe there's a perfectly normal explanation, but you may also find yourself asking a different question entirely, which is not, is this real? But why does this keep happening?
Ooh,
Right?
why does this keep happening?
Yeah. When people talk about past life memories, most stories fall apart pretty quickly. They're vague, they're symbolic, they emerge through hypnosis or meditation. They rely heavily on belief. The cases we're focusing on tonight behave very differently. Most involve young children, usually between the ages of 2 and 6.
Oh, no.
The memories appear spontaneously without prompting or therapeutic digging. Investigators pay close attention to whether statements were made early, before adults began searching for matches, whether the details were specific enough to verify, and whether normal information transfer could reasonably explain what the child knew. So it's like they're looking at it, are the parents leading them with questions,
Right.
or did they see something on TV or those kinds of things? Did they hear something at their church or their place of worship or whatever? But most of these kids are too little to know about any of that stuff.
Right.
You know?
Side note, anytime my son Bo, he always is like, "You're my best mommy."
You're like,
and I'm like,
out of how many?
How many have there been?
Which number am I? That's funny. In some cases, researchers also documented unusual behaviors, fears, or fixations that didn't fit the child's family environment.
Ooh,
So can you imagine just having a fear?
What kind of
out
fear
of
are we
nowhere?
talking about?
It could be like maybe fear of flying or,
or like drowning or something, like something like that. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And in a small number of cases, they noted physical features like birthmarks or birth defects that were said to correspond to injuries suffered by the person the child claimed to remember being.
That is the most interesting thing to me.
Yeah.
I love reading those cases. It's
Yeah.
just like,
they have like a birthmark, right, where they, whatever. Many of these cases were collected by psychiatrists associated with the University of Virginia's Division of Perceptual Studies. That detail matters because this is not a paranormal institute. It exists within a medical school. The researchers involved were trained to diagnose mental illness, not validate metaphysical claims. So this isn't like a woo-woo society thing. You know what I mean? Not that there's anything wrong with the woo-woo society thing, but this is like at a medical school.
Right.
Okay. And the work coming out of that department has made a lot of people uncomfortable, including scientists who would prefer these cases didn't exist at all.
Oh.
Okay, you ready
to
like, hear?
We can't explain this.
Yeah, they're like, we can't explain it, so let's don't talk about it.
Right.
Pretend
it didn't happen.
Yeah. One of the most well-known American cases involves a boy named James. It's either Leininger or Leininger.
Okay.
When James was a toddler, he began having violent, recurring nightmares. These weren't abstract childhood fears. He screamed about his plane crashing, about being trapped, about fire.
Oh my gosh, I have chills already.
Yeah, he talked about aircraft carriers, engine failure, and being shot down. He's a toddler. He used terminology no toddler should reasonably know. At first, his parents assumed he absorbed something from television or books, but the nightmares persisted and the details kept coming. Names, locations, and references to a very specific war.
Stop.
Eventually, investigators connected James's statements to a World War II fighter pilot who died when his plane was shot down.
Stop it.
Isn't that crazy?
Oh my gosh.
The case was later documented by psychiatrist Jim Tucker, who approached it not as proof of reincarnation, but as a clinical anomaly that resisted easy explanation. He's like, that's weird.
Weird. Let's write it down.
What makes this case compelling isn't that every detail lined up perfectly. It's that enough statements were made early, consistently, and with specificity that the case refused to quietly dissolve.
But I think, too, just like you said, he's a toddler, right? It's hard, even if his parents were training him or whatever. It is really, really hard. I can speak from experience to have a toddler repeat something verbatim.
Yeah.
Especially if it's like names or technical terms or things like that. It's hard to have them repeat and recall something on cue
Yeah.
verbatim.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely. They do whatever they want.
right?
And say crazy things.
Pretty
Yes.
much.
Yeah. But skepticism still belongs here. Children are highly sensitive to adult reactions. Parents can unintentionally reinforce narratives, and memory is malleable. Stories can evolve. Information about World War II exists everywhere in popular culture. Even in one of the strongest cases, uncertainty remains. And that uncertainty is not a flaw, it's part of what makes this field of research honest. So there are reasons to say, well, maybe it's not reincarnation. Maybe he heard this somewhere. He happened to, I don't know, maybe they were watching a movie and he walked in and saw that or whatever.
Well, I think it's really hard to make the jump to reincarnation, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It's hard to think that that could be a thing. It's hard to believe like this little boy experienced this and is recalling these things. That's a very like big jump, no matter who you are, if you believe or not, right?
Right.
But I think there is some compelling details in that case that make me like, what was it? What did you say at the beginning I was supposed to be doing? Asking, what if? Or what was it?
Oh, why does this keep happening?
Why does this keep happening?
Well, I'm going to tell you more about why it keeps happening or what keeps happening. I think it also just goes back to a lot of things that we talk about on this podcast where something weird happens and your brain doesn't automatically go to this crazy idea. You're like, did I hear something? What?
Right.
Oh, what was that? Or, you're questioning yourself. And so it would have to be happening a lot. And your kid would have to be saying a lot of weird things for you to go, wow, there's a pattern here, or there's actually a real story here.
Can you imagine the parents are like, oh,
sugar, honey, iced tea.
Like, he had it again, Marge. That same dream. I don't know. That would be scary though as a parent too. And you would feel helpless in a way,
my gosh,
right?
especially if he's clearly suffering from something traumatic, even if it's just nightmares, that's scary enough for a little kid, right? So another American case that's frequently discussed involves a boy named Ryan Hammons. As a young child, Ryan began talking about another life connected to old Hollywood. He described a career, relationships, and personal experiences that didn't belong to anyone in his immediate environment. Can you imagine your kid talking about old Hollywood?
That's what I'm talking about. I would want to be either old Hollywood or like flapper, like 20s. Like that's where I would want to be, I think.
That would be pretty cool. Yes. Investigators later linked his statements to a real individual from Hollywood's golden age. This is usually the point where skeptics jump in, and honestly, they're not wrong to do it.
They're like, Great Gatsby.
Yeah. One of the biggest criticisms of Ryan Hammons' case has to do with age. This is kind of interesting. Ryan reportedly gave an age at death for the person he remembered being. And when researchers first compared that to the official death certificate of that person, it didn't match. So the skeptics were like, oh, not him.
How far off was it?
Well, listen.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
If you're listening to this thinking, okay, that feels like a pretty basic detail to get wrong, that's a fair reaction. Critics pointed to that discrepancy as a fatal inconsistency, the kind of thing that should shut down the whole case. But when researchers looked more closely, things got murkier. The person Ryan's memories were linked to was known to have misrepresented his age during his lifetime. So he was giving false ages.
It's like us. We're like, we're 23.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously. That wasn't unusual in old Hollywood,
of course.
I mean, Hollywood today, obviously we know their ages, but everyone's trying to be younger and look younger, right? They have a timestamp on their career in Hollywood. When investigators dug into census records, industry documents, and other archival material, they found multiple conflicting ages attached to the same person.
Stop it.
In other words, the death certificate wasn't necessarily the final word people wanted it to be. Once those inconsistencies were taken into account, Ryan's stated age at death landed within a plausible range.
Oh my gosh.
So
I love that.
Like, I'm not telling you my age. Yeah. Now, that doesn't magically make the case airtight. It doesn't turn it into proof of reincarnation. But what it does do is complicate the idea that the age mismatch automatically invalidates everything else. It becomes less about a kid getting a fact wrong and more about how messy historical records can be, especially when we treat official documents like they're infallible. Even the researchers involved are careful to say that no single detail should carry the entire case. The interest comes from the clustering of details, not from one fact standing perfectly on its own. It's got to, I think in a lot of these cases, it's like they might have 7 out of 10 facts right. And is that enough to prove it? I don't know.
Well, I mean, even a human, any human, recalling a story. Like you could be talking about going to the grocery store.
Yes.
And you could remember it this way and in this order. And if you looked at like CCTV, it would be slightly different.
Or you might not, when people are picking people out of a lineup, they are consistently wrong because our memory is, like if you're not looking to notice things about people, you don't notice. And then your brain just like makes a guess or a jump,
right? Fills in the blanks. And so I think that, I can't expect anybody would have 100% accuracy remembering anything.
Well, especially from a past life.
Yeah. Some of those details got lost in the last however many decades.
In the shoot.
Right.
I forgot some of that stuff. I was going to that bright light. Once again, this doesn't prove anything, but it raises the same unsettling question. How does a child with no obvious exposure produce such historically anchored specific detail? And I feel like even older kids most are not wildly interested in old Hollywood. You know what I mean? Maybe some kids are, but I don't know. It's pretty random. It's like kind of a random category of time or whatever, period of time.
Right.
Here's where the story widens beyond the United States, because these cases don't stay confined to one culture, one religion, or one belief system. In Sri Lanka, researchers documented children who spoke about previous lives as ordinary people, shopkeeper, laborers, and farmers, and who provided names, villages, and family relationships that could later be checked.
Whoa.
In some cases, children insisted on visiting the places they had never been taken, and once there, navigated unfamiliar streets with surprising confidence.
I love it.
Yeah.
They're like, okay.
They're like, this is my home.
Yep.
In other cases, they recognized people they had never met and reacted with intense emotion, either affection or fear that didn't make sense in the present day context.
Whoa.
Yeah. It's another part of my question is also in some cultures, reincarnation is a thing, part of the culture. And so is there pressure to perform? You know what I mean? I don't know. And I'm not sure about Sri Lanka, but we can talk about India next, because that is a place where belief in reincarnation exists culturally, but it's not always encouraged within families. So some of the earliest reported cases involve children identifying previous spouses, describing domestic disputes, or recounting deaths tied to betrayal or childbirth.
Oh.
One of the most famous examples is Shanti Devi, who as a young child in the 1930s claimed memories of a previous life as a woman in the city of Mathura. So this is a very famous case, but it's also kind of a hotly contested case.
Okay.
She named her former husband, described her home and daily routines, and spoke about dying from complications after childbirth. So it's a kid talking about this. An investigative committee of the time reportedly accompanied her to Mathura, where she recognized people and places connected to the claimed life. What makes her case compelling is not just the specificity, but the emotional weight. Her distress was real, persistent, and disruptive. So she was messed up about this,
Well, yeah, I would imagine any child who's recalling dying in childbirth
and then remembering her husband.
Right. Can you imagine what that would feel like? Like not 1 minute, but for lack of a better term, 1 minute you're in this life. The next you're here and you're like, what is this? I'm a kid?
I'm a kid.
What happened to my family, my baby,
Yeah, and it overlaps too. I think a lot of times it's like from another time period, like a full time period, but they overlapped. Like her husband was still alive when she was going and meeting all these people. That said, Shanti Devi's case is also historically messy. Much of what we know comes from later summaries rather than preserved primary documentation, which makes it harder to evaluate by modern standards. Because of that, researchers today tend to treat her story as historically important and culturally influential, but not as the strongest evidence on its own. What's more interesting is that her case mirrors dozens of later reports across India that followed several patterns, often in families that actively tried to make the memories stop rather than encourage them. So I thought that was really interesting that they weren't encouraging that. I would think that they would, since that's part of the belief system, that they would be like, oh, really? Tell us about it.
But maybe I think it's because you're supposed to be living this life with things that you learned from your previous.
Oh.
You're supposed to be improving like who you are.
Not dwelling on the past.
Right.
Oh, interesting. That makes sense. Cases have also been documented in Lebanon, Turkey, and parts of the Middle East, regions where reincarnation is not a dominant religious belief. And that's the thing too. It's like, if you were, like, let's say you were in this country and you're a Christian family that actively doesn't believe in reincarnation, and then your kid starts talking about this stuff, it would be pretty troubling. And I'm sure it's the same in all of these other religions or belief systems where that's not part of
because it's challenging your beliefs, right? But this is just unexplained, right? This is something you can't explain with your religion or with science right now,
with the tools in your toolbox at the moment, right? In some of these cases, children described previous lives that crossed religious or cultural boundaries, creating discomfort rather than validation within their communities. So that would be really tough. These stories were not celebrated. They were often treated as problems to be solved or silenced. It's important to say this carefully. None of these cases on their own prove reincarnation. Historical records can be incomplete and memory is fragile. Cultural context matters. But taken together across time, geography, and belief systems, these stories raise a quieter and more unsettling question. Why do certain patterns keep repeating even when no one involved seems to benefit from them? It's true. It's kind of like, what's the point? You have this little kid that's having these nightmares about plane crashes. That's not beneficial to him or the family. That's tough. So why does this keep happening? What do you think?
Why does this keep happening?
I don't know. Do you have an idea?
No, I mean, I am really interested as to like why this kid, why this particular person or soul or whatever we're talking about here is coming back.
Yeah, like how did that connection happen?
Right.
If that's what that is.
Right. And the ones that you were mentioning, like in India and places like that, where it's like one right after another, it's like, does this soul leave this body and pop into like a womb? You know, like I don't know.
You don't even get a break. You don't even get a rest.
Police is like, I need any time in my spiritual bed.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna need to rest after this one. Before I go popping back into the womb. That sounds crazy. The mystery isn't that every detail lines up perfectly. It's that so many of these stories refuse to disappear entirely, even under scrutiny. One of the most consistent features across cultures is the timing. The memories almost always emerge between the ages of 2 and 4, peak around 5, and then gradually disappear by the time the child reaches 6 or 7.
Wow.
Along with the fading memories, associated behaviors often fade as well. Intense fears subside, obsessive play themes dissolve. So like you're playing crash, whatever.
I'm playing. For me, it would probably be like I'm just like some normal person who's like scrubbing floors. And
I'm playing mom again.
I'm gonna scrub the floor.
Yeah. Emotional attachments loosen. It's as if whatever was pressing against the child's awareness simply releases.
Weird. I know. What is it with those ages though?
I don't know. It's the same with like a lot of times like imaginary friends or seeing, it's the little kids that see somebody in the corner and chat to them. And then it stops when they get older. I don't know.
Right. I mean, I know that they say, that kids can kind of like see through the veil or, are more open and things like that. But if this is something that you have experienced,
it's like part of you.
Right. I wonder why you lose it.
Maybe that's just part of I want to say system. I don't know if system is the right word, but maybe that's just part of the thing. Like in order to go on with your life, you have to kind of let go of that.
That makes sense.
You know, in order to like be your own whole person, you have to let go of that past. And maybe it's not really intended for us to know about those things, but sometimes they just sort of seep out.
Right.
With little kids.
Maybe everybody has that and you just don't remember it for whatever reason. Those few people do.
Yeah, maybe so. Some of the most difficult cases to discuss involve what researchers sometimes call carryover effect. Certain children display intense phobias that appear to correspond to how the person they claim to remember died. Fear of water in cases involving drowning, fear of loud noises in cases involving explosions or gunfire. Others repeatedly reenact scenarios in their play that don't align with their lived experiences. These behaviors are not taught, they're not rewarded, and they often distress the families witnessing them.
Yikes. I'm drowning again. Oh my gosh.
It's scary.
I have a chill.
I know, that's really, I mean, that would be really scary.
I'm picturing myself like observing my child doing this kind of play and be like, what are you doing? Like, what is this?
You would probably be thinking about taking them to counseling.
Right.
You know, if they're repeatedly replaying a drowning game or whatever, you know, or that would be really unsettling. Then there's the most controversial category of all, cases involving birthmarks or birth defects that appear to correspond to injuries suffered by the claimed previous individual. Researchers documented children with marks that matched entry and exit wounds, surgical scars, or trauma patterns. This reminds me of our friend that wrote in about Hamilton.
Oh,
because she had a birthmark right in that same spot. This is where skepticism becomes essential. Correlation does not equal causation. Medical records can be incomplete. Humans are extraordinarily good at retroactively fitting stories to physical features. Of course, you might be like, oh, I have this birthmark. What is that? You know, it must be where I got shot, you know, in my past life. And yet, enough of these cases exist that researchers felt compelled to catalog them, not to claim proof, but because pretending they weren't there didn't feel intellectually responsible. So you can't just ignore it. There's something there, you know.
I mean, yeah, if there's enough of them, that's interesting.
Yeah. At this point, it's worth pausing to ask a deeper question, not about reincarnation specifically, but about consciousness itself. In near-death experience research, people across cultures report remarkably similar perceptions at moments when the brain should not be capable of generating coherent experience, like we talked about last time. There's a sense of separation from the body, encounters with deceased loved ones, a feeling of continuity rather than extinction. In past life memory research, consciousness appears to behave as though it has access to information that doesn't neatly belong in the present brain alone. These two areas of study don't prove each other, but they do kind of rhyme and go along together, right? That there's something about consciousness that is not only in our physical brain.
You know what it makes me think of? Have you ever heard those cases where somebody receives an organ from somebody and it's like the organ has memories?
Oh, we should do an episode on that. Oh my gosh, write that down. Yeah. Oh, that's crazy. You know, when they have, or they might have like mannerisms or something.
Like totally. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, we're going to do an episode.
Yeah, we got to do it. That's a good one. That's a great idea. So in both scenarios, near-death experiences and past lives, the experiences occur to people who did not seek them out. Children who haven't been taught what to believe yet, adults who didn't want the experience and often struggle to integrate it afterward. In both cases, the memories are frequently intrusive rather than comforting. These are not stories people seem eager to invent. They're experiences people often wish would stop, you know, and especially like the little kids have no control over it, and their parents probably, it's concerning when your kid is talking about something traumatic, right?
Right. And I imagine at some point you're like, please stop. Like, this is, you know, scary. Bananas. And depending on what they're saying or what they're remembering or experiencing, you know, you could feel scared, worried, I'm sure, but also kind of like I don't know the right way to say it, kind of like devalued or something, you know, like where you're like You're like, I'm your, I am your mom.
Yeah, I'm your mommy.
Right.
Yeah, when they're talking about like their other mommy or their past family or their
Mhm,
brother or something
mhm.
like that.
Or
Yeah.
how much they miss somebody, or whatever the case might be. Like
Mhm.
I imagine that would kind of
It would hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is a perfect segue for this because now we're seeing these same themes emerge in real time. So parents are sharing moments on social media when their child said something that made the room go quiet.
Ooh, I have a chill.
Yeah. So what do you say to your 5-year-old when they start telling you about their old mom and dad and then begin to describe them passing away in a car crash?
Oh.
This is just the beginning of a child's story that I saw on social media. Actually, that's kind of what made me want to dive into this subject because I saw this lady, the mom posted him telling the story. He's not on camera, it's just his voice. You can't see him at all, but he goes on to describe going to a blue building to pick out his new family. And he gives a lot of detail about that situation. And I think the mom is just now kind of trying to dig into the details and kind of asking him questions. And it's a traumatic story about like that his mom and dad died in a car wash in a car crash. That would be odd. In a car crash, but also something terrible happened. Like the mom did something bad to the brother.
Oh.
Like there was a whole weird story that is not like 5-year-old material.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh, that's scary.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say that if my little ones started talking about those topics, and I know as a parent that they don't have any exposure to that information, it would give me pause.
Right.
With little kids, you have to kind of like not make a big deal and just be like, oh, tell me a little bit more about that.
Right. This is
Mm.
reminding me of, did you ever see the movie Soul?
Mm-mm.
The like Disney, Pixar, whatever.
Oh, no, I didn't see that.
Okay, you should watch it. The thing about like, I don't know, there's so many kind of like crossovers with these kind of stories that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
I think you should watch it.
Oh, okay. I'll get back to you on that one.
Okay.
Anecdotal stories are not evidence, but they're data points. When the same motifs appear across decades, cultures, platforms, it suggests that we may be only seeing fragments of something much larger. If you're hoping for a clean answer, there isn't one yet. Science has not proven reincarnation. It has not mapped consciousness beyond the brain, although, as we discussed in our NDE episode, this is at least being explored now. But science also hasn't explained why these experiences exist or why they cluster in such a consistent way across time and geography. Maybe memory is stronger than we think. Maybe identity is more fluid than we assume. Maybe consciousness doesn't obey the boundaries we've drawn around it. Or maybe we're asking the wrong question altogether.
Probably.
Because the most consistent element across these stories isn't who someone was before. It's how deeply human the experiences are. Fear, attachment, loss, unfinished business. These are things that don't vanish easily. They linger and they ask to be acknowledged. Whether these stories point to past lives, psychological processes, or something we don't yet have language for, they leave behind a quieter kind of unease. And maybe the real question isn't whether past lives exist, but what it says about us that these stories keep returning. Because something somewhere seems very determined to not be forgotten. And if nothing else, that's worth listening to.
Wow. I love this. It's so
crazy.
Intriguing. And not gonna lie, I all the time since my kids have been able to talk, I'm like, hey, like hoping they'll be like, I see something, or like, I remember this, but they haven't, except for my son that one time. Ghosty up there.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Aside from that, but it is so interesting to me. And as far as like, I don't know, I feel like if you had these past memories, I have so many questions, but like why would you not remember them as you got older? Like if this was such a, I don't know, traumatic or integral part of your soul, your consciousness, your whatever it is,
What if it's something in your cells? Have you heard, another reminder, I'm not a scientist, so this could be total nonsense, what I'm about to say. But have you heard that your cells turn over every 7 years?
Yeah.
Like you know what I mean? Like your cells have like a whole cycle.
Every 7 years.
Yeah.
7 years. You said everybody.
Yeah.
It's like up until you're 7.
Yeah. So what if by the time that last cell has regenerated, then that's done?
Whoa. Wow.
That's a thought. I just thought of that one all by myself.
Wow. Felice's going to go to that psychology
there you go.
department.
Maybe that's biology.
Oh, it's a crossover.
There you go. We just solved the mystery of reincarnation. And
just
you're
like
welcome. You're welcome.
Now you don't have to ask, why does this keep happening?
I don't know. To me, it's so fascinating. It's a big mystery, and it's like funny to talk about these stories, and you're like, oh, that's weird, whatever. But man, if you really put yourself in a parent's shoes and your kid is going through this, it would be really scary.
Right.
And sad, maybe, you know what I mean? Like, depending on what they went through, like, wow, that would be really hard.
Especially, like you mentioned that kid who said his old parents died in a car accident. And then I would imagine if you're carrying that with you, then you're going to be afraid that these parents are going to die in a car accident, right?
Right. Yeah.
Or you're afraid to get in a car, or, things like that. The trauma that would be inflicted by these memories on this like young brain developing child would be, I think, have long-term repercussions.
Yeah, they could.
Whoa.
Wow. There you go. Reincarnation, past lives.
Cool.
Let us know. What do you think? You guys have
let us know if you have
any
a past
ideas?
life.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, speaking of past lives, no, this isn't about a past life. I have to tell you, are you ready for somebody who told me?
I am so ready. Let's do it.
So we were just talking about kids and past lives, and this isn't really about a past life, but it does involve kids. Okay. So recently, I went back to Pennsylvania and saw some family, and we went over to my husband Ryan's extended family. And just to kind of give you an idea, a bunch of people from his family live in this tiny old coal mining town. Okay. So when you're there, they all live like next door, across the street, over there, blah blah blah, and they refer to certain houses by certain names, and it's really funny. Okay. So yeah. What I found out was that essentially this whole little town is haunted.
Ooh.
So
okay.
There are a ton of ghost stories, and Brenda, who is married to Ryan's cousin, invited me to come and like ghost hunt at their house, and I was supposed to go, and then we got a ton of snow on New Year's Eve, so I couldn't go. Like the roads were terrible and stuff because we were supposed to go out there. Yeah. So bummer, but I will bring my stuff up next time because now I know. Let me tell you about the one house. Okay, so this is told to me from Ryan's Aunt Monica. Aunt Monica told me these stories. So I don't remember, and I didn't write down because it was another one of those situations where there's a lot of background noise. Everybody's yelling around and stuff like that, but she's telling me the stories. Okay, so I took notes on it. The mom would get migraines a lot and would be in bed, and the daughter would go in and ask if she needed anything. And she'd say, no, the kids are taking care of me. And the daughter would say, what kids? And she'd say, oh, the little boys and her sister. And the daughter's like, who? And, like, what are you talking about, Mom? They thought Mom was like sick, delirious, whatever. And she's like, oh no, like the little boy in the pea coat and, his sister and stuff like that. Not too long after, looked out the window, saw a little boy in a pea coat, a little girl in a red coat with a babushka. Do you know what a babushka is?
Yeah, like a hood thing.
Like it's like a scarf, like in Eastern Europe. They used to like kind of tie around.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, saw little figures outside. Nobody wasn't time period accurate in terms of dress.
Right. Yes.
And everybody in that town knows everybody in that town.
Yeah.
And those were nobody's kids.
Oh my gosh. Whoa.
So in that same house,
Wait,
that,
I want to know what were they doing to take care of her? Like getting her a glass of water? What were they doing?
I don't know. I mean, maybe they were just like comfort, like, you know, like it's okay.
Sweet.
I don't know. Maybe it was just their presence. I don't know.
Oh.
And they're not sure of the connection between the kids and the woman. But in that same house that is still there, that some of Ryan's family lives in, they would hear kids running across the hallway upstairs when the house was like empty.
Oh my gosh.
And doors would slam, and you know, it was just general ruckus.
Yeah.
Right. But nobody would be there except for like one adult. So fast forward, Aunt Monica and her daughter Lori, they go to a medium and they're talking, and the medium told them that there was a little boy who was running down the sidewalk and across the road and got hit by a car. And so he was just looking for kids to play with. And so that was like the little boy
that was running around
in
the house.
The pea coat.
Oh.
So then they were cleaning out somebody's home who had passed away. And they're like, who's that little kid playing out there in the pea coat? So this is years later.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
And
poor kid.
No one, right?
Yeah.
But then somebody else moved into this house, and this is spooky.
Okay.
They were having like a kid's birthday party or something. A balloon floating.
I hate that.
Moving through the house. And I've seen a video like that before, but like they were like, no, this really happened.
Yeah.
But get this. So they dug into this story a little bit. They found out who this little boy was, and his mom was still alive.
Oh.
So he had gotten hit by a car.
Yeah.
And I think she left, whatever, but they found out she was still alive. When she died, all the activity stopped. Oh. He was just like waiting for her.
Mom. She was like an old lady by that time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. So that's one, like, that's the big story about the little boy in the pea coat. Like,
so ongoing.
Right. And it continued on. And then it kind of had confirmation from this medium and things like that. That's not the only activity in this little town. So when they were cleaning out somebody else's, Uncle Ed's bedroom, I don't know who Uncle Ed is, but
yeah,
they do.
They do, yeah.
They're cleaning out the bedroom, and all the doors in the house slam. I know. How scary would that be?
Out of there immediately.
Then
I would be like, no, I'm not doing this job.
A drink just like picked up off the table, went across, and slammed on the floor. And then a whole stack of stuff, like, you know, when you're cleaning out somebody's thing, you know, you've got stacks, right?
Yeah.
A whole stack of stuff. They had left it on the floor. And when they came to finish, it was in a completely different spot.
Uncle Ed is like, stop touching my things.
Right. And then like the door opened and shut, like the front door.
Oh my gosh.
Right. And so Brenda, who lives in the house, she said like the door opens and shuts all the time. The lights go on and off.
Oh my gosh.
And things
Brenda,
like that.
Are you okay?
Right. And so when her husband, Steve, was ripping out the walls to, you know, like do insulation or whatever it was, he found a bunch of drawings from a kid under there. So I don't know if that's tied to our little peacoat guy or what, but it's like a interesting connection, you know? And then when Brenda moved into the house, she said she would smell, they call him Pap, like I guess it would be Ryan's grandfather, or maybe it's the great grandfather.
Okay.
They would smell his cologne. They would see movement like out of the corner of their eyes.
Ooh.
And then when her daughter was born, and her daughter's in college now, but when her daughter was born, Brenda woke up one day, went to check on her, and there were 3 figures standing around the crib.
Whoa.
She said she didn't feel scared.
Okay.
Or anything like that.
Yes.
But she was just like, what?
Everybody okay in here?
but she said, you know, it didn't feel scary. It was more like comforting, checking in. It was familiar and familial, I guess.
Yeah.
But those are just some of the things. One last one. This is from Aunt Monica.
Okay.
So Aunt Monica and Brenda were kind of telling me these stories. So Aunt Monica said when her mom died, so that would have been Ryan's grandmother. So when her mom died, and Aunt Monica said she was, you know, at the casket, and she took the glasses off of her mom and like took them with her.
Yes.
And every day after that, her dad would say to her, "Why did you take mom's glasses? She's not going to be able to see," and all of this stuff. And so it went on and on. And then, and then it became like, later on became a thing like, well, when you die, then we'll make sure that you're buried with mom's glasses so you can take them to her, and it was like that kind of like joking thing. So when he passed away, they put the mom's glasses in with him.
Yeah.
They went back to that medium who had seen the boy with the pea coat.
Yeah.
And the medium said, "Mom said to tell you thank you for sending the glasses."
Oh my gosh. She's like, I've been up here how many years? I can't see anything. I've been needing them the whole time.
If I'm in the afterlife and need contacts, I'm going to be really pissed.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that should not. You're supposed to get fixed.
Can you believe that?
No, that's awesome.
So,
that's cool.
Again, these are kind of like a little bit scattered, but so many stories and experiences from various houses. And I think it must just be, I don't know if it wasn't just all in the family, but I don't know if it's like the space or if it's just that these families have kind of been ingrained into the landscape almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And also when you think back, like coal mining towns in Western Pennsylvania, they were really hardworking people.
Yeah. Hard life,
didn't have much, and so maybe part of that sort of like salt of the earth spirit kind of stays, or whatever it might be. And I think that they probably did have a lot of pride in their home.
That's what I was going to say. They're kind of staying to watch their stuff that they worked really hard for,
Yeah. But anyway, so that's
interesting. Oh my gosh. That's so cool. It's fun to like talk to people who have all of these stories that they're so willing to share freely.
Well, and that was like the whole thing, because we're like, oh, how's the podcast going? I'm like, great. Well, does anybody have any stories? Oh yeah, and this and this and this. And I'm like trying to get them written down as fast as I can, and they're like, oh, I'm sure there's more. We'll let you know. And
wow, that's cool. Oh, thank you guys for sharing all of that.
Thanks, Monica and Brenda.
We want to come investigate. I'm coming too.
Yeah. Yes.
Field trip.
For real.
Yeah.
It's not far from my parents' house, though.
Okay. We'll do all of that. Wow. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the You Two Scare Me podcast. Have you checked out our website, you2scaremepodcast.com? You can find blog posts about our episodes, cool photos of us, and links to buy our spooky gear.
Listeners, like what you hear? Help us reach more ears by sharing the show with your fellow weirdos, subscribing to our YouTube channel, and joining our Patreon.
Yes. Speaking of Patreon, we have another Patreon shout out.
Woohoo!
We would like to thank Jeff for becoming our second Patreon member.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yes. And we are really working on our Patreon. So there are cool things coming. Some things are free for you to check out. And then a lot of things come with the paid membership. So Patreon is a platform that allows creators to receive direct financial support from their fans, known as patrons. We're working super hard to grow our podcast, and this is a way that you can help us out.
Just follow the Patreon link in our show notes to check out our 2 membership tiers. And don't worry, both tiers include a shout out right here from us.
Yes. Thank you, Jeff. You can also help us by rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, Amazon, and wherever you get your podcasts.
Don't forget to check us out on our social media. Find us on Instagram at you2scareme_podcast or on our Facebook page, You2 Scare Me. You can even follow us on TikTok. Just search You2 Scare Me Podcast. No spaces.
Remember to send us your own spooky stories for our Somebody Told Me segment at you2scaremepodcast@gmail.com. That's YOUTWO scaremepodcast@gmail.com.
Thanks for wandering through the shadows with us.
Until next time, stay curious and beware what lurks beyond the light.